The Vikings are looking to pick up another statement win on Sunday. We're going to tell you how they get it done. Welcome into Locked On Sports Minnesota. I'm Sam Ekstrom, host of the Minnesota Football Party, executive producer here at Locked On Sports Minnesota. If you're tuning in for the Minnesota Basketball Party, this is the usual Wednesday slot, but during this basketball hiatus, we are pivoting to football and the red-hot Minnesota Vikings for the next several weeks. Myself, Sam Ekstrom, we're joined by Reggie Wilson, sports director, KARE 11, and the Ron Johnson, host of the Ron Johnson Show. He's on our Vikings postcast, our Gophers postcast. He's everywhere here at Locked On Sports Minnesota. We're going to talk purple for most of the next half hour. A little Gophers at the end with their big game against Iowa coming up on Saturday. Guys, let's have some fun. We got a couple football teams in this town that have won 2 consecutive games. The Vikings are one of the big surprises of the NFL. Gophers are wiping the slate clean as they start Big Ten play. So let's get into it. We got some wide receiver health issues to discuss with the Vikings, defensive acquisitions abounding, and turning this defense into the real deal under Brian Flores. And I'm going to pose a question about Adam Thielen and the sinking Panthers a little later in the show. But Reggie Wilson, give me the first word. This Vikings-Texans matchup on Sunday, battle of unbeatens. I got to think you're looking at the schedule as a neutral fan, and you say, hey, that might be one of the games of the day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And especially because like this Texans team, you look at what they showed last week, and offensively didn't set it on fire. The first week they looked pretty good offensively, but last week didn't set it on fire. But that defense, man, they made Caleb Williams wish he was still in college. You know what I'm saying? Like they were all over him, and he was doing things that he thought would work in college, found out those windows were even more narrow. And, at the end, he and CJ Stroud were meeting at midfield, and CJ was trying to kick him some game, and he really didn't seem like he wanted to hear it that much. Kind of like a sore loser almost. But I think, this is a really, really tough test for the Vikings. And I think it'll be a early barometer. The 49ers game was one thing, but back to back, I can't remember what we said our predictions were before the season started. But back to back with the Niners and then the Texans, I don't know that we thought that they would come out of this as unscathed as they have so far. But following the Niners with the Texans and all the offensive firepower that they have, you might have a hobble Joe Mixon, but, CJ Stroud is an ascending quarterback in this league. I think Tank Dell, Stefon Diggs, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, maybe Robert Woods, like all these dudes are on the Texan squad. Brian Flores talked yesterday. He was just like weapons everywhere, weapons all over the field. But I think he's going to have something. Brock Purdy told him that, scheme is crazy. I think that scheme is going to find a way to level the playing field a bit. I think the DBs might be tested a little bit more than they have this season just because there are so many weapons to account for. But I think Brian Flores has a plan that, maybe this will be something that CJ Stroud hasn't seen before. Maybe since Mike McDonald in that playoff game against the Ravens, they really made it tough on him. Probably a scheme that he wasn't used to seeing. And so, I know that DeMeco Ryans' scheme is pretty crazy as well. He had a lot of success with the 49ers, and that may cause some problems for Sam Darnold and company on offense. But I just think, this is a great matchup and a great challenge for the Vikings to see where they are.
Yeah, Ron, what's your favorite angle in this one? Because there's so many. You got Grenard against his former team, Daniil coming back to U.S. Bank Stadium, Stefon Diggs coming back to the U.S. Bank Stadium, and just the overall C.J. Stroud dynamic. What can he do against a good Vikings defense as he tries to take the league by storm? There's so many angles that you could kind of latch onto for this game.
Yeah, and so I'm going to start off with stats. And so when you look at the stats of this game, one, these are 2 really good defenses. You look at the Texans defense right now, 19.5% of their plays have resulted in a first down or touchdown. That is 6th in the NFL. They are one of the top 6 teams there. But then you go to the Vikings, yards to go per play, 8.4 yards to go per play, meaning they are putting people, which Jacksonville's number 1 at 9. So the Vikings aren't far off. Chicago's 8.8, which we saw their defense look really good. If you haven't seen Baldy's breakdown, check it out. They are filling the gaps like crazy. If you think you want to run the ball, because again, the Bears Texans played, and you look at what the Texans wanted to do running the ball. Watch some of Baldy's breakdowns of how the Bears handled the Texans' run game. And they're really good. And you look at the Vikings, 8.4 yards per play. That's tied for 4th as far as defense giving them a long field and being able to convert first downs. You look at first downs as far as the defense giving up. Like, again, these are 2 really good teams. Houston's only given up 29 first downs. They have 4 interceptions. So the Houston Texans defense is good. Now, you have to look at who they played, though. They did play the Bears, which, like you said, I think Caleb Williams, 30 out of 37 dropbacks, he was under pressure, something stupid like that. Like, I haven't looked at the actual numbers because, again, people can create what the word pressure means. But here's the storyline I like. You got Blake Cashman leaving, coming over. You also have Grenard coming over. Then they go get Azeez Al-Shahir, and he is supposed to be the green dot guy that's supposed to come in and run this D'Amico Ryans defense and really get these guys going. So that's one storyline. You also have Danielle Hunter. And I heard somebody say this the other day about the Eagles front office and that their GM and their defensive coordinator are not on the same page when you talk about what they want to do. I love the Vikings because Kwesi and Brian Flores are on the same page. He said, look, this is what my defense needs to look like in order for it to work. So they parted ways with Danielle Hunter. They parted ways with DJ Wannman. People are like, oh my God, what are we going to do? What did he go do? He went out and got him the pieces he needs. So now Brian Flores can run his defense the way it's supposed to be run, and it looks great. You look at the Eagles, they're used to rushing with 4 guys, Brandon Graham, and you can go down the list of guys they used to have rushing the quarterback. It was always just 4 guys. They don't have a guy right now that can beat you one-on-one and get to the quarterback. That's why Kirk Cousins had all the time in the world in the 2-minute offense, which, by the way, he looked pretty good, even with a bad Achilles. And they could not get to Kirk Cousins. So, and again, the run game slows you down, your linebackers down to blitz and rush, but he wants to get home with 4. And I think it's Vic Fangio. He wants to get home with 4. His GM is not on the same page with him. He's not. He's like, figure it out. And Vic Fangio tried to figure it out, tried to get after Kirk Cousins with extra guys, and that's why guys are one-on-one. That's why guys are getting beat. That's why guys are giving up touchdowns. That's why the cornerbacks are like, whoa, wait, we're supposed to be in zone. Why are we in man? Because we can't get home with 4. And that's why, that's my other storyline is Brian Flores has the pieces he wants because his GM understood the assignment and he stayed with it. So that's what I'm looking for. This is going to be a defensive battle. And then, of course, we've talked about Sam Darnold slaying the top quarterbacks. And again, this is another one. Rich Eisen, if you guys ever seen the Rich Eisen show, there's a clip now of them saying that the 49ers let go of the wrong quarterback. What? Rich Eisen's like, I am dumber for hearing you say that. But it's funny that people are even saying that now. Like, you're telling me that Sam Darnold couldn't have got that done under Shanahan's offense and and now they're on it. Still stupid because Brock Purdy is under a rookie deal. So you still, if you did keep Sam Darnold, you would have had to pay him to be your star eventually. He wouldn't have kept playing for, $10 million, $15 million. He would have wanted a deal. So that's dumb in the money aspect as well. But the fact that this is going on, can Sam Darnold put CJ Stroud in the closet with the other dead bodies? We'll figure that out.
That's a salacious tease there. I like your Cashman angle, too. I didn't think about the Cashman revenge angle. So you got 2 on the Vikings side, 2 on the Texans side. Reg, between Danielle and Diggs, I asked Ron about this yesterday on the Ron Johnson show. Who's going to get the loudest cheer? Who's going to get the loudest boo, potentially, from the home crowd? And who's going to be fueled the most by coming back to Minnesota, coming back to a place where they either got, not re-signed or traded in Diggs' case?
Yeah, I think Diggs. It's funny because as historic as, what Diggs did with the Minneapolis Miracle and all that, like, I still think he might get some boos just because,
I do too.
I think he might get some boos. I don't think anybody should boo Danielle Hunter. Like, I think everybody should just be glad for, what he did, fighting through all the health things that he had to fight through, the neck, the pec, all those things that really, probably should have kept him from being as productive of a player as he's been. He all out just last week against Caleb Williams, he like impaled him. Like that was like, good Lord. Like, and I can only imagine that was a welcome to the NFL type moment when you have this like Greek Adonis just coming at you, just all 250 plus pounds of them, just, coming right at your face. Like that was something. But I think it'll be a cool experience for guys like Grenard and Cashman, because Cashman is back at the crib. He's enjoying himself, and he seems to be playing with like the freeness of a guy who is comfortable in his situation, and he has played well. Brian Flores talked about him yesterday. Just talked about how one of the Gophers coaches, his daughter and the Gophers coach's daughter go to the same school, so they've spent some time together. And he brought up Blake Cashman, and then he went back and looked at the tape because Blake Cashman really wasn't on his radar. And after watching his tape and figuring out what his contract situation was, he was like, okay, yeah, he looks like a dude that I would like to have. And I guess he pushed Kwesi to do it, and got Cashman in the building. But all of that is really intriguing. I don't know. I feel like Diggs is going to have like this, like, aura about him on Sunday, really business-like approach. Because he is, for all intents and purposes, like a legend in Minnesota because of that one wonderful play in franchise history. But I just don't know that he'll be received as well as maybe he should. Just because he kind of wears out his welcomes.
I don't think Diggs has probably ever been booed in his NFL career, but he strikes me as someone that would get fueled by that and actually put up 100 yards if that happens. I think this is how the Vikings handle it, and it helps that Daniil's there. I think you put them both up on screen, Daniil and Diggs together. Like you said, there's no ill will with Daniil. I think that people give them the cheer, get it out of the way. Don't single out Diggs. Don't give them the opportunity to. Now, if they boo him when he makes catches, you can't stop that. You can't prevent that. But I think you just put them both on the screen, give them their moment, and then get it out of the way early. That's what I suspect the Vikings will do, and I think that's how it'll play out.
I will put the Miracle up there. Just put the Miracle on screen, rip the Band-Aid off.
Well, you don't want to make him feel too good, Reggie.
It.
He's the adversary. You can't make him get all confident.
Yeah, I mean, but that's a pretty nostalgic, moment in Vikings lore. I feel like just put it up there, rip the Band-Aid off, and just allow him to feel, and then move on.
The meetings in like the game ops production prep this week are going to be pretty fascinating. This is a big week for them. But I love going back to the defense. Like when Flo or Kwesi, when they get conviction about a guy on that side of the ball, whether it's Josh Metellus, we're going to turn him into a Swiss Army knife. Ivan Pace, we're going to get him in undrafted free agency, and he's going to start week 1. We're going to give big deals to Grenard and Cashman. Like, Ron, all these big moves they've made, some of them are kind of off the radar, like Metellus or Pace. Some of them are very on the radar. But whenever they do something wholeheartedly, it seems to work. Like all the moves are clicking right now. All these acquisitions on defense are gelling. I can't think of a bad one at this point. Everything's working out the exact way they hoped it would.
Yeah, again, I go back to the 3-4 defense. If you understand the true concept of a 3-4 defense, you got the nose guard who's going to be a 0-1, -1 technique guy. He has to be able to hold down that guard and center on either side. And he's a 2-gapper. He's a guy that has to take the double team. He's a guy that has to be aggressive. And they have that. Then you look at your defensive ends or your D tackles, they would be, and that's why I always thought like Danielle Hunter Probably wasn't an outside linebacker. I think he's big enough and strong enough. He could have played the D tackle in this defense. He could have taken up that. Now, again, as a D tackle, you don't get as many sacks. You don't get to get after the quarterback as much. You're more of a role player. You're there to eat up tackle guard so that your outside linebacker maybe has a free rusher, or like you saw Blake Cashman on the twist, you're twisting with one of the linebackers. I don't know if Danielle Hunter would have loved that idea, but I thought that's where he was better suited because he's strong enough to do it. But when you look at that, you have the D tackles now. You have the guys you need there. You got the pieces you needed there. You got the guys that are willing to be just guys. You're not like Ray Lewis's defense when they went to 3-4. He thought it was going to be a bad idea until he realized how much freedom he was going to have. Imagine Ray Lewis, imagine Ray Lewis being your Blake Cashman. Like that's what we were getting. It was sideline to sideline. It was going after the quarterback. It was getting downhill whenever you needed to. It was filling the gap. That's how Ray would have 17 to 19 tackles a game. It's fun to watch. It's fast paced. This is what Brian Flores wanted. Everybody mocked it. Everybody said, Danielle Hunter can't stand up. You're right. But you know who can? That guy over there, Van Ginkel. He has been able to read those smoke screens nonstop. I don't think Danielle Hunter would even known those passes were going past his ears. Like he would have had his ears pinned back and just getting after the quarterback and engage with the tackle right away. Whereas Van Ginkel understands it. So you're right, Sam. I don't see a hole in any of the acquisitions because they all fit exactly what he needed. Cashman, Van Ginkel, and Grenard. You have three guys that are biggest pieces of your defense that were not here last year. Three of your biggest pieces, which is your two outside rushers and your middle linebacker with the green dot, were not here last year. And your other linebacker is an undrafted free agent. So yes, they did a great job in their acquisitions this offseason.
Pass defense for the Vikings.
And they drafted Dallas Turner. So that's another part of that.
Yeah, just don't roll into the end zone on punts, Dallas, and we're going to be okay.
By the way, I will say that's the college rule. So he has to remember, just because you slid on the ground with the ball, you're not dead on punt. That's the old college rule.
Interesting.
Once you hit the ground in college and slide, it stops the play. And so that's why they try to do that. Because if a guy slides, has the ball, and then drops it, in the NFL, that punt returner, until the ref blows the whistle, that punt returner now can come pick it up and run it back. Because now, even if he fumbles, it's still his ball because the defense touched it first. In college, they don't allow that. So once it's touched, it's dead. Once you're on the ground and you touch the ball, it is dead. You cannot advance it. You cannot move it. The ball cannot come out and go to somebody else. It's dead. And so, again, that's just him learning because he slid, and I think he thought, let me slide and get the ball. Okay, I'm done. And he hopped up like a baseball player, and then he just kept walking forward. Like, it wasn't even like his momentum. Give it to somebody. Yeah. And then I think somebody said, like, yo, no. And then he's like, oh, shoot. Yeah. So that's just college. He has to learn.
It is Iowa Gophers week, so it's good to get the refresher on the punting rules, Ron.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be something stupid that happens
never
in this
know
game.
what controversy could arise. No, last one here on kind of the Diggs thing. You look at what he's done in the first two games, pretty quiet, like 33 and 37 yards. Nico Collins, on the other hand, 117 and 135 in his first 2 weeks. So I know the Vikings run a lot of zone. It's not necessarily a lot of man or shadow situations, but Reg, just quickly, how would you defend those two receivers? Who would you man up against them if you had to?
Man, maybe you put Gilmore on Diggs, and you put Murphy on Tank Dell. And
Tank, can't forget about him.
Yeah, and Nico
Shaq?
Yeah, maybe Shaq.
Metellus doubling?
Yeah. I think that's probably your best play. Like it's this is a tough matchup, man, because it seems like there are not enough guys to go around. Like you really haven't heard much from Caleb Evans this season either, but he's still there. So you implore him and I don't know, just pray, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think they view Gilmore as their shutdown guy, like even a step above Murphy, the way they've used him. I could see Gilmore going man-to-man with Collins if the situation called for it. I do think they're going to still work a lot of zone. Like, I don't think there's going to be necessarily a lot of those on an island situations. We'll see what the Texans can scheme them into. Ron, what's your instinct on how they're going to defend these wide receivers?
You play match zone. So when you match the zone up, you zone one side and you man up the other, or you man up one guy and you zone behind him. And it's situational. So Brian Flores right now needs to watch some film, watch some stuff. The one thing I'm seeing is Nico Collins has 18 targets and Stefon Diggs 12. Now, is Stefon Diggs happy about that? Probably not. But, there's been some jokes about him on the sideline, already mad about stuff, talking to people. I think the 2 touchdowns keeps him happy, but 252 yards for Nico Collins to Stefon Diggs 70. He can't be too happy about that one because, again, you're seeing Nico Collins being targeted a bunch. You're seeing Nico Collins get some of the additional first downs. His 12 first downs, so money down, third down, second down. Stefon Diggs is not his guy. Like, his guy is Nico Collins. Nico Collins has 12 first downs to Stefon Diggs 4. So how would I do that? Like I said, it's going to be down specific. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look at on third down right now. His targets are pretty much even. 6 to Nico, 6 to Stefon Diggs on third downs, 6 to 5 catches in way of Nico, 86 yards. But then on the first downs, Nico has them there, 4 first downs on third down. So on third down, I'm probably taking more of a look at Nico Collins because I think what the offensive coordinator is doing, and this is a cat and mouse. This is a cat and mouse league. You have to know, okay, who are they probably trying to shut down now? It's Stefon Diggs. Like, on third down, everybody's thinking Diggs is the problem. And that's why I think Nico Collins is doing what he's doing right now and getting off. And so I'm going to take a look at the way they're lined up. If I have a guy backside by himself and it's Stefon Diggs, I'm probably more worried about that guy now because they're trying to isolate him and get him by himself on the edge or get him over there to for you not to worry about or not pay attention to him. But on second down, that's where it's a little more telling. Nico Collins is the target on second down. He has 8 targets on second down. Stefon Diggs has 3. So again, I think it becomes situational of how I would attack this. I'm going to look at alignment. I'm going to look at if they're in the bunch set. I'm just zoning up a bunch. I cannot man up a bunch because that's how they kill you, because if they crisscross, they got some trick plays for it. Even if there's a motion in the bunch, I'm going to motion and show man, and then I'm going to alert zone. Like, Brian Flores has to play chess because you're dealing with a guy in Stefon Diggs that starting today, today's Wednesday, right? Starting today, because Tuesday they were off. Starting today, he is in CJ Stroud's ear. He's in his offensive coordinator's ear. He's saying, look, I need the ball. The last time Stefon Diggs faced the Vikings, it was as Cam Bynum would say, movie. It was a movie. You had Stefon Diggs making plays. You had Justin Jefferson making plays. So I know Stefon Diggs really, and he has not been back in US Bank Stadium. He really wants to make a statement. But if you can shut him down and slow him down, that's why I would man up Stefon Diggs and still let Nico Collins get at me, because then you're going to create some type of frustration. And I'm going to go the petty route. I'm going to treat him like Michael Jordan in the playoffs. There are no layups. You're not getting anything easy. If you're blocking downfield, DBs, push his ass into the ground, excuse my language, but I would make this a petty game to get him out of his game because he wants this too bad. He wants it. And I think Reggie's right. I would play the Minneapolis Miracle early to make him like feel heartfelt towards Minnesota. Like, show love early, like show him, because if you do some crap like boo him, he plays off petty. Like, he likes that. He's one of those guys that like that negativity feeds him. I can't remember what movie that was, but all the negative stuff kept feeding the demon. And that's what you do. I would soften him up, make him cry a little bit. I'd have a tribute video from Adam Thielen saying, Diggsy, I know you're going to have fun today, but Thielen doesn't care about us. But
here's what I want. AI Mike Zimmer saying, Stefon, you were right. I was wrong. I treated you badly.
Kirk was the problem the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should have kept you. But you know what though? And maybe we'll talk about this on Friday's roundtable. I do feel like Mike Zimmer should be vindicated a little bit for the fact that this Vikings offense is working with Sam Darnold, because I think Zimmer always wanted that. Let me just keep getting veteran QBs and let my defense be really, really good. And I think everybody assumed, nah, that doesn't work, man. You got to the same place with Kirk Cousins as you did with Case Keenum to the NFC Championship. So wait, did Kirk go to the NFC Championship actually? He did, right? Was that no? He did.
Kirk was a game short of it.
Oh man, I thought he went to the NFC Championship. So no, it was always a loss because it was he beat the Saints, but then he lost. Right? That was Kirk
to the Niners. Yeah,
and that was before the NFC Championship.
Correct.
Because that was the wild card. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? Mike Zimmer, in his mind, he's like, look, I got here with Case Keenum. Just give me a good defense. So I feel like he deserves a little bit of vindication.
That's fair. What the Texans are loaded at receiver. We've covered that thoroughly. The Vikings are banged up at receiver, and we're going to find out a lot more about their health status in the coming hours and days. But we'll discuss the Vikings receiving depth and could they call on one Adam Thielen for potential reinforcement later in the year. We'll get into that on this bonus football episode here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. Be right back. We're presented today by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, and you've got 4 days left to capitalize on this fantastic promotion through FanDuel. You bet $5. This is for all FanDuel customers. Bet $5, get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season, Sunday afternoon, out-of-market game. I think there were 10 games happening simultaneously on Sunday. You could have watched all of them. Set up 10 screens, watch them all with YouTube and YouTube TV. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment. You can cancel anytime. Visit FanDuel.com. Download America's #1 sportsbook. It's nice if you've got some skin in the game at FanDuel. It's nice to watch the game that you're betting on. So check it out at FanDuel.com today. More Vikings talk with myself, Ron Johnson, Arif Hassan, Luke Braun, Luke Inman, back tomorrow on the Minnesota Football Party, but we continue the football talk today by addressing the Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison injury issues. So again, Jefferson missed the final quarter of the 49ers game with a quad contusion, I believe we're going with. Took a hit from Fred Warner, probably left a gnarly bruise. Jordan Addison missed the game with an ankle. I don't think he practiced all week last week. So I don't know his status at all. Jefferson was optimistic he'd be able to play this Sunday. But if you don't have Addison or don't have 100% Jefferson, Reggie, how does that impact your view on the Vikings' chances on Sunday?
Man, that's tough. That's tough. That puts a lot on guys like Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, Tristan Jackson, Jalen Naylor, that's a tough one right there. Just because like Justin Jefferson does multiple things when he's out there. One, he draws a double team, which gets other guys open and ready to, contribute. But also, he's just a dynamic guy out there who you could just throw it up to and allow him to make a play. I think he's going to do everything he can to be out there on Sunday, but we may not see him at his best. I think, maybe we see him, still productive, but not as productive as maybe we would. But, Kevin O'Connell said he was in the building this week and feels good. So, hopefully he gets some good treatment and he's ready to rock out there. But, it's a tough deal in general with just Jefferson out there. And they were able to overcome that. Even last week, he's beating double teams and, he and Jalen Naylor are out there with a nice 1-2 punch. But to not have Jefferson or Addison, and now you're looking at Jalen Naylor being wide receiver 1, like that really makes it for Kevin O'Connell to like scheme some things up and really try to make things happen. Maybe you rely a little bit more on Aaron Jones and Ty Chandler in that running game to really kind of keep the defense off balance a little bit. But that definitely makes things challenging. But I do think Jefferson will be out there.
Yeah, I think so too. And, Ron, what recovery is like as an NFL wide receiver. I look at all the resources that the Vikings have for this injury with Jefferson: cold tub, cryo, massage, acupuncture, like whatever it might be. Feels like they'll get him ready to go. Do you have any doubt that he'll be playing if it's just kind of a soreness issue?
No, the only thing that would keep him out, and again, I'm pretty sure they're going to, look at it, maybe even get an MRI just to be sure because it's covered under all that millions of dollars of, insurance and everything that the Vikings have. As long as it's not a bone bruise, like if it's just a deep muscle, as long as that bone didn't get hit, like, because you have to it depends on where. But I've had the bone thing happen too, and they do have to shoot you up. The only thing about being shot up is it goes numb. So you do lose a little bit of feeling. So there's like parts of you to get hit in games. You don't know it until that stuff wears off. And you're like, oh, wow, like, this hurts. So that's it. As long as it's not the bone, I think he's fine. It's the muscle. If it is the bone, he'll be fine, but it's going to be some discomfort. And so then it's like, do they wrap it? Do they shoot? They're going to shoot it up if it's the bone. And then they're going to put like a padding over it. I don't think that matters because once the adrenaline gets going, according to Shadur Sanders, he does, or not Shadur, Shiloh, he doesn't play with adrenaline. Once the adrenaline gets going, then I think he'll be fine. But no, I have no doubt that Justin Jefferson is going to play because it wasn't a knee. If it was a knee, I'd be worried because you just don't know how knees and ankles and those things you really need work. But a hip pointer, a thigh bruise, a hip bruise, they hurt like heck. Sucks to, do it. They're going to probably keep him on limited all week. And then he'll be ready to go. This is one thing about when you're the best player in the world. Being limited doesn't matter. Like Peyton Manning, I don't know if you guys remember, go way back to the Peyton Manning Broncos days. Once he hurt his, I think it was his ankle at that time too. He had a high ankle sprain. He didn't practice Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesday, Thursday. But he was in the hot tub, in the cold tub with his helmet on, listening to the entire practice. He was listening to all the play calls. He was listening to what the coach was saying. But he was getting treatment. Then he would go out to practice. He would just stand around and throw. And then, boom, Friday, he's out there jogging around. That's no pads, just helmet and blah, blah. And Peyton went through that whole season. I think they won the Super Bowl that year. So it doesn't matter that you, if you're the best. Like, you can figure out ways to get through practice without practicing, and he'll be fine for Sunday. Mm-hmm. Now, Jordan Addison, on the other end, Jordan Addison, the one thing I was going to bring up is the Rams are without Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. So they're dealing with the same thing. Now everybody's trying to pick up Tutu Atwell and Tyler Johnson in fantasy football right now because those are the two guys right now. Looks like Tutu Atwell is going to be the quote-unquote guy Matthew Stafford has to pin on. This league is built on this, though. This is what have you done for me lately? Who's up next in the NFL? Like, this is what it's about. So I think Jordan Addison's absence is going to be tough, but Jalen Naylor looks super fast. And then I think I'm guessing Brandon Powell. Trent Sherfield, I feel like, is a special teams guy, so I wonder if Tristan Jackson becomes the 4 in this situation. If it was TJ Hawkinson was back, I wouldn't worry, but he's still not back. So does Tristan Jackson become the 4 because Trent Sherfield seems to be the special teams guy, and that's why he's up every Sunday?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind giving Tristan more snaps in this. If the doomsday scenario happens, you don't have Jefferson or Addison, I would like to just see what could happen with Tristan Jackson, because I think he's one of those guys that could be a bit of an over-the-top threat. I think he could win in the intermediate part of the field too. Just try it out, right? If you're rolling with Naylor, Sherfield, Powell, and Jackson, you may as well try all your options and see if anything can click. We're going to be talking about the Adam Thielen connection for the next 2 years. Like, as long as he is in Woeful, Carolina, the rumor is always going to be out there that the Vikings could bring him back to Minnesota, and the Panthers just benched Bryce Young. It seems like they are trying to salvage their season, so maybe that's actually reason for them not to sell off all their assets. But let's say it stays this way for Carolina. Let's say they are 1-5 at the deadline, and there's Thielen sitting as their wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. They've got Deontay Johnson in there as well. And maybe the Vikings are still dealing with injury issues. Maybe Jordan Addison's not at full health. He's got 2 bad ankles. Maybe Justin Jefferson's got something lingering. There's a suspension lingering with Jordan Addison. Reggie, do you think that an Adam Thielen reunion via trade would make sense if the Vikings are wide receiver needy at the deadline?
Yeah, I could see it. Especially because the Vikings have the cap space as it stands. I think Thielen's base salary is $5.5 million. He has a 9.9 cap hit. Vikings have about 14 million, almost 15 million in cap space. So, I think it works. And I think actually Adam Thielen has shown that not only is he, still a productive receiver in this league, I mean, he's still good. Like, I think last year, maybe the numbers would have even been better if there was better quarterback play. I have a best friend who is in Arizona right now, but he's from Kansas City, and he's a huge Chiefs guy. And he was banging the drum for the Chiefs to sign Adam Thielen. He just felt like that was just a perfect match for Patrick Mahomes. And I think if he was in an offense like that, you would probably see Thielen still being close to 1,000-yard receiver. So, I think Thielen still has good run left on the legs, and I think he could still be productive. That being said, there were some things that were said, maybe not necessarily by Thielen, if you want to connect the dots there, but it would make a reunion seem a little unlikely. But you did see him working out with JJ McCarthy in the offseason and things like that. So he at least has a little bit of a rapport with, him, and obviously still a good rapport with a number of guys in that building still. So I could see it.
Yeah, I mean, the question for me is, what's the going rate for, a 34-year-old receiver that had a really good year last year? There's not a lot of precedent for it. He's got 1 year left on his deal. Ron, it's not the craziest thing in the world. Like, if the Vikings are literally hurting at wide receiver, Thielen's out there, the Panthers are in a lost year, I think he could be on the block. Like, I think he could definitely be available via trade, whether it's the Vikings or someone else. So it's a matter of, what would you give up for Adam Thielen?
Yeah, so there's two sides of this. One, you have to remember Thielen's representation didn't always love the Kirk Cousins situation here. So there was a little bit of that, and that's not just this regime, it's also the previous with Rick Spielman. And we know that. Adam Thielen with Kevin O'Connell, right? He was here for 1 year with Kevin, right? Is that what it was?
2022. Yep.
Yeah. So
and it wasn't great. It wasn't great for him that year. I don't know if he was banged up, but he did not look himself.
Yeah, so he was. Remember, I brought that up. He did have the meniscus thing, so he was going through. Or I have to go back and look at my text, but he was. Remember, he had the knee thing, and he had it scoped. He didn't have a full repair, and I think it was a meniscus, if I'm not mistaken. But Adam Thielen had, or some type of knee thing. It was knee something, because it wasn't. He didn't look right, and so when you think about Adam Thielen and where he's at, and at that time, it was more so too. Though we had Blake Barrett's on his agent, and he said Adam wanted to move on because he didn't want to be a $10 million decoy.
Mm-hmm.
Now the question is he still willing to be a $10 million decoy, or $5 million, or $4, whatever the trade? And because I'm guessing it would be a trade, and then, hey, we got to renegotiate this contract. But whatever that looks like, would he be willing to do that? Because this is a playoff caliber team. And if he wants to finish out his career and maybe have some success going to the playoffs, and because at this point he's made his money, people know who he is. He's one of the best Vikings in history. He'll be in the Purple Ring of Honor. Not a Hall of Famer, I don't think, because the accolades you need more to be a Hall of Famer. But he will be in the Purple Ring of Honor. How does he want to finish out his career? Does he want to finish it out in purgatory and deal with this absolute, like, I don't even know what to call it, train wreck going on in Carolina? Or does he want to finish it out with some success? He likes Sam Darnold. They played together in Carolina, so I could see him pushing for that. But again, it's going back to that mental of like, okay, I know he's the guy. I know I'm coming in and Justin's the guy. So am I willing to do that? I would do it in a heartbeat. Why? Because you're still, like, if you look at the targets for the Vikings right now, with Jordan Addison out, TJ Hockenson out. We also remember TJ Hockenson comes back. So does Adam become third wheel to TJ and JJ? But he is AJ, Adam John. But Aaron Jones has 8 targets. Johnny Munn has 6. The next closest receiver has 5 to Justin Jefferson's 13, and that's Jalen Naylor. And then Jordan Addison has 4. We know Jordan Addison hasn't played much, so maybe he'd be higher. But I could easily see Adam Thielen saying, you know what? I'll take 7 targets. I'll take 8 targets in 2 or 3 games. 8 targets in 2 games, give me that. I'll take that, because why? It's way better than what's going on right now, and it's a competent offense. So I can see it happen, but I can also see like him maybe shopping to, other teams looking for receivers, like the Rams. The Rams, couldn't use a receiver. And, even though we know Matthew Stafford's on at the end of his legs. But I could see him shopping around with teams like that are playoff caliber teams that might need a receiver. Cardinals could use a guy next to, what's his name? Marvin Harrison Jr. You could, the Saints probably would say, hey, like, I know we did the whole thing with the Minneapolis Miracle, but we're sorry. It wasn't our coach. He's not the coach anymore. I can see the Saints, because they're really good and they could use a solid receiver. So, yeah, I can see the Minnesota Vikings, though, but I also know, like, he's not crazy enough to say, this is my only place. I think there's some other places that might take him.
Yeah. I mean, really, the Vikings needed him last week. Like
True.
because right now is the time where you're starved. It's very possible that the deadline comes around and they've got Hawkinson back. They've got full strength Jefferson. They could have full strength Addison. So at that time, they might not be needy and it might not happen. And I think it probably will not happen, but it's not impossible. Never say never. Adam Thielen back in Minnesota. Now that would be probably second to Randy Moss returning to Minnesota. That will never be touched in terms of a reunion, but this one would be pretty awesome too. Let's touch on Gophers Iowa, because that's a big game. That's coming up Saturday night at Huntington Bank Stadium. Gophers trying to get Floyd of Rosedale for a second straight game. We will have keys to victory after a quick pause here on Locked On Sports Minnesota. And make sure you check out all of our shows on the SiriusXM app, the SXM app. Just search Locked On Sports Minnesota. Get all of the Locked On Podcast Network content, your teams every day. All right, a lot of Vikings talk, but Gophers Iowa was important too. I mean, this is the restart for the Gophers. They dropped one against North Carolina. Not a fun loss, but you're 0-0 in Big Ten play. There are no losses on your ledger. You can kind of reset the deck. Ron, the Hawkeyes are 2-1 like the Gophers, and like the Gophers, their 2 wins are not that impressive. They shut out Illinois State 40-0. They beat Troy 38-21. Their loss, similar to the Gophers, tight, kind of devastating. It was a long field goal made by Iowa State at the buzzer, 20-19. They lost that one at home. What is a key to victory against the Hawkeyes on Saturday?
So the key to victory for them, I mean, Caleb Johnson, I don't know if you guys follow much, but Iowa's running back is an absolute beast. He's leading the Big Ten right now, 479 yards. Next closest guy is Rutgers running back Kyle Manage, 373 yards. And then, of course, it always looks weird when I look at this now because I see Washington and Oregon, and I'm like, why are they in this? And I'm like, oh, yeah, they're in the Big Ten now. But Jonah Coleman and Jordan James from Washington and Oregon are round out the top 4. And then the top 5, you got Khalil out of Michigan. I say that to say Caleb Johnson is in a class of his own. Like right now, he has 6 touchdowns. If you watch him run, he runs hard. They run the ball. And this is what you have to do, you have to sell out. That's the key for the Gophers. Sell out on the run. Force K. McNamara, because K. McNamara throwing the ball, if you watch him against Iowa State, he does not look good. He does not look comfortable. He doesn't look like confident. That's why Jim Harbaugh moved on from him. That's why Harbaugh moved on from him and went out and he got J.J. McCarthy, but he moved on and basically K. McNamara had to hit the portal. And Iowa thought they got a guy. Oh, we got Michigan's quarterback. Well, this is why Michigan let him go. He's not that good. And so I would force Iowa to be one-dimensional. Vice versa. The good thing about the Gophers this year is they don't have to be one-dimensional. They got Darius Taylor and they got Max Brosmer. And Max Brosmer right now is 68% completions, is the highest completion quarterback PJ's ever had in his tenure here. Now, he has thrown the ball in his past at Western Michigan. We know that. Corey Davis caught a ton of balls there. When you look at what PJ Fleck is willing to do, he said this yesterday on the PJ Fleck show as well. We were like, is this the best quarterback you've had that you've been able to trust? And he's like, oh, I've had some really good quarterbacks in the past. And he talked about all the Western Michigan guys. He did not talk about guys he had here. So not to say he didn't trust the guys here. He just knows Max is this is the quarterback he's trusted the most in maroon and gold. As far as being able to deliver the ball on time, get it there, and having the arm talent to do it, he just feels like Max is the guy. And so that's why they're not one-dimensional. They lack the Tyler Johnsons and the Rashad Batemans that they had in the past. But Daniel Jackson is pretty good, and now they have to find another guy, whether it's Christian Driver, whether it's Elijah Spencer. They have to find, Lemecki Brockington. They have to find a guy. So that's my key is the Gophers don't have to be one-dimensional and don't try to be. I know you want to run the ball, PJ, but spread it out. Force Iowa to guess every time. And then for Iowa, force them to pass. Force them in 3rd and longs. He cannot get it done.
Yeah, Reggie, it feels safe to say that if you can score 21 in this game, you've got a good chance to win based on what we know about Iowa's offense. And, hey, the Gophers' defense has allowed 1 touchdown this year in the first half of the first game. The last 5 halves of football, no touchdowns. The last 4 halves of football, no points. So it stands to reason that if you can find a way to get in the end zone, score touchdowns, don't settle for field goals, and you can win this game against Iowa.
Yeah, I think The Gophers should have won that first game that first week. It was just some inexplicable stuff that happened on the offensive end, but the defense played well enough to get them a win that day, especially after Max Johnson went out. And so now, you look at two back-to-back shutout blowouts, whatever you want to call them. I think there's a lot of confidence, but they have to like keep it rolling and don't like fall into the trap of like, oh, it's Iowa, so we have to play a certain way. Like, I'm all in on what Ron was saying. Like, don't try to, get too cutesy, get too mindful, be too demure. Don't do all that. Like
Not the demure.
you gotta look, be balanced. Don't be afraid.
I never thought I'd hear demure on a football show.
Yes, don't be afraid to put the ball in Max Brosman's hands. PJ
I'm still in that, and I'm
him.
gonna quote you, Reggie, on the pregame show. I'm
Okay,
still in that
all right,
Saturday.
all right, do that.
Reggie Wilson says for the Gophers, don't be demure.
Yeah, be aggressive. Be aggressive. But look, PJ Fleck has been singing Max Brosman's praises, and I think the last two games have given him some confidence. That interception to him targeting Christian Driver was kind of brutal. It seems like Driver didn't really, I'm sure Ron watching that was probably upset at Christian for not making more of a play on that ball, because Brosman kind of gave him a chance there. But I would say put the ball in his hands, because the last two games have given him confidence. There've been confidence coming from PJ Fleck's mouth about Max all offseason and throughout the start of this season. Put it in his hands, be balanced, and go win that football game, man. It's crazy that Iowa, continues to be the Iowa that it's always been. And, that first week, PJ said, hey, I thought, whoever wins this game is like the first to 20. Whoever scores 20, wins this game. I feel like it's kind of like the same situation here. Just a smash mouth, boring Big Ten football game that may come down to like the very end. That's probably what we're going to see. Also, I know this is different sport, but Woj from ESPN
is leaving.
He's
yes.
retiring. He's retiring and going to St. Bonaventure as the general manager of the men's basketball team. That is crazy.
It's like, is that his alma mater? Like St. Bonnie.
Yep.
Okay, it is.
Yep.
Wow. That's got to be a pretty significant drop in pay too, I would think. Must have just got tired of the grind, being the scoopster at ESPN. That's wild. I wish we had been on the basketball show to get Jack Borman and Ben Beacon's response to that one, because that is nuts. Gophers, Iowa, by the way, a robust over-under of 35 on FanDuel, which segues into the final segment of the show. This is just something fun we're going to do as long as we do this bonus Wednesday episode. Little pick'em action, little contest to see who can pick against the spread 3 NFL games per week. So here's how I'd like to do it. We'll just rotate. We'll each make a pick, 3 picks total. My rule is going to be we can't duplicate. So if somebody takes your pick, you got to find a new one. Or you could take the opposite side of it, too. That would also be fine. So if I took the Texans, Ron could take the Vikings. That'd be fine. He could not take the Texans, though. Hopefully that makes sense to everyone. Just random draw. Let's go with Reggie starting out. First pick, Reggie in our Pick'em contest.
Oh, there's some brutal ones here based on how both teams have played. Like the Giants at the Browns, the Bears at the Colts,
Yeah.
But I'll go Saints. I'll go Saints.
Saints minus 2.5. Okay.
Yeah.
They're at home against the Eagles. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Then Ron, what do you got?
The spread. These spreads are some weird ones, but give me the Packers. Nah, I hate the Packers. Give me the Raiders minus 5.5.
Right. And who are they playing?
Panthers.
Okay. I wrote down Panthers plus 5.5. I want the opposite side of that, Ron. I'm taking the I'm taking the QB switch.
Because the Raiders have to win by 7, right?
6. At
6.
5.5, they'd have to win by 6.
If they win by 6, then they cover. Okay. Yep. Give me the Raiders.
Yeah, I don't love the Raiders, and I like Andy Dalton, so I'm going to do that. Let's go back to Reggie Wilson, pick number 2.
I am going to take the Seahawks over the Dolphins. 4.5.
4.5. All right. And that's certainly without Tua. All right, Ron.
Yep.
That spread's too big. I don't know if I want to do it, but you know what? I know I'm going. Give me the Chiefs. Give me the Chiefs over the Falcons -3.5.
Going with the Chiefs. They do nothing but play dramatic games. -3.5 against Kirk. I like the chaos of picking against you guys. I like the Eagles to bounce back. I don't think the Saints thing is sustainable yet. I'm going to take the Eagles +2.5.
Not a big Clint Kubiak fan, huh? Okay.
We talked about vindication for Zim earlier. How about the opposite of vindication? When Clint Kubiak looks this good as an OC,
and we're taking it at what it is right now. Like if the line changes, it doesn't matter, right? Or how are we doing?
We're locked in at the numbers that we have now. We're locked in.
Okay.
Reggie, what's your third pick?
This third one is tough, but I think this one is a pretty easy one for me. I'm gonna do Bucks over Broncos. 6.5. Yeah, like that seems easy. Bo Nix looks terrible.
Yeah, you swiped mine on that. I was gonna go with it. Ron, what do you got?
Give me the Cowboys +1.5 over the Ravens.
Ooh, 0-3 Ravens, huh?
Ooh, Cowboys bounce back as underdogs.
Your boys. You gonna do that to your boys?
So no one's touching the Texans-Vikings game yet. I am going to take the home dogs. Give me the Vikings +2.5. I kind of love this team right now. I think the Vikings defense is a legitimate defense. I don't think there's anything flukish about it right now. And I think Sam Darnold's playing a sustainable brand of football. So I'm going to take the Vikings. They're not going to have an emotional letdown after a big win. They're going to come back and they're going to put together a big performance against Houston, who didn't look amazing against the Bears. Those are the picks. They're locked in. We'll tabulate them on next Wednesday's show. Reggie, great stuff. He's at Reggie. Am I getting this right? At Reggie Wilson on X?
At Reggie Wilson TV.
At Reggie Wilson TV. I knew that. At 3 Ron Johnson on X for Ron Johnson. I'm at Sam Ekstrom. Minnesota football party tomorrow. Everydayers, thanks for watching our lineup, and thanks for getting us to 8,000 subscribers on YouTube, by the way. We appreciate that. You can hear this show in the Locked On Sports Minnesota audio feed wherever you get your podcasts. Saying so long for today. Vikings-Texans Sunday. Gophers, Iowa on Saturday.